On this episode of the Tri-State Freethinkers podcast, Chris Olton tells us about the Good News Club, what we should be worried about, and why it's dangerous for our kids. So stay tuned. Tri-State Freethinkers podcast mini-episode number 1. From November 19th, 2015, the Good News Club, with speaker Chris Olton.
All right, so how many of you have heard about the Good News Club? Ooh. It's going to be a comedy of errors here. So for those of you who don't know, the Good News Club is an evangelical Christian organization. They go into schools as an after-school program and do something like a Bible study. And they teach children various parts of their indoctrination. Some of the things they teach are, I think some of us here might find quite objectionable here. One of them is this notion that without Jesus, you are a broken, sinful child who is bad and needs to constantly ask for forgiveness, or else you will go to hell and burn forever. And worst of all, too, is also teaches that children, that their friends that are not saved, are also going to go to hell if they do not repent. And if they don't repent, it's almost like shunning. They tell children, just leave your friends or don't talk to your friends. It actually goes more than that. It's more than just friends, and I'll get to that a little bit later. But it also teaches children that there are people who are of the wrong religion, and they're going to go to hell too. So it's not necessarily a message that I think most of us would agree with here. I think any one of us could find a problem with these messages. So some of the effects of this. Yeah, so indoctrination is discrimination, or it discriminates against religion. So your Jewish friend, and of course your atheist friend are you shouldn't talk with them. They're bad people. It causes divisiveness in the communities that they go into, communities that might be Catholic or largely Catholic or largely, I'm trying to think of another, was Episcopalian or something like that, either that are not part of this line here of the Good News Club's particular dogma here. It just creates a separation between those who accept their teachings and who don't. And this has the effect of a backlash, really, against the school systems. What we see here is parents stop getting involved with the PTA because the PTA is just under the stress of having to deal with the Good News Club wanting to come in, and they have this legal right to do so, and the parents who are upset that they're actually coming in and telling their child this. Some of the things that their parents have heard their children say disturb them, like that their parents are going to hell. It affects the schools, and this is actually largely deliberate. And I have a nice little quote here. I hope to see the day when we don't have public schools. The churches will have taken them over again, and Christians will be running them. So this is the ultimate goal here of things like the CEF, Christian Evangelical, I can't remember the F now, but the organization that runs the Good News Club, that's their ultimate goal here. They want to, the churches or the schools as they are now are secular or are not Christian enough at the very least, and they're causing a whole generation of people to go to hell. And it's their job to save them by shutting down the public school system and introducing their own teachings to the public at large and the future of the country. Why does this happen? Some of you may wonder if this is legal, because I kind of wondered this too. And it is absolutely legal. So in 2001, there was a case, the Good News Club versus Milford Central Schools. This is not Milford here. This is, I forget what Milford this is. And the courts, the arguments against it were that children would see this as sort of an endorsement of religion if they saw the schools have a sense of authority within the community. And that they said that this was an establishment issue too, that this would tend to establish religion or the government establishing religion. The Supreme Court disagreed. The Supreme Court said this is not an establishment issue, this is a free exercise issue, that these organizations have the right to exercise their beliefs, and part of that belief is going out and proselytizing. They also said that children won't look at schools or teachers as forms of authorities. So there's no coercion here by letting these religious organizations into schools. Now, I have my own thoughts on that, and actually so do sociologists, psychologists, but that's why they're allowed in here. The courts basically said there's no problem with allowing the Good News Club and the like in schools. So my main goal here, when I first heard about this, one day at Jim's, we were going over a list of stuff, is how are they going to do this? Well, I've already answered that, but we have to be able to do something. And I thought of some things. The first one is fairly straightforward, is protesting and petitioning your government to see if they could enact laws. As far as I'm concerned, though, since this is a Supreme Court ruling, I don't think there's really any laws they can enact. This is a constitutional issue, not some law. We can alert communities to the presence of these organizations. This has already happened in a lot of organizations. You have people who go out to the organizations and hand out literature, let people know what exactly is coming into their school. And we can spread this issue amongst social media outlets. So I'm not really good at this, admittedly. I'm not really much of a social media person. But if you're on Facebook or Twitter or something, and you could, there's numerous Facebook pages. You could actually even share the Good News Clubs. Most Good News Clubs have local Facebook pages. You could share those, just let other parents know this is in your community. Say you know a friend that's in California or something. Say, hey, in your school district where your kid goes, this is here. And we can respond in kind. And this is something that I've been dealing with or been thinking about a lot. And I only brought it up. I brought it up fairly recently. And this is largely what I want out of this presentation. Really, being one person, I need help on this, lots of help potentially. This could be a very large issue that we have to deal with. Not many other groups are out there right now dealing with the Good News Club or churches in general. Because one thing I didn't mention in the slides here is churches are actually now holding their congregations, their Sunday congregations in schools. They've ditched the church and the church building, and they're now going into schools and hosting it. And for that Sunday, for that time, there's a throng of people coming in to do whatever it is they do in churches. I never grew up religious, so I don't know exactly what they do. And then they leave. But for that time, it is effectively a church. My suggestion immediately is that's kind of what we should do. Now, I don't like to be in there. I don't think we should be in there any more than the churches should be. But the Supreme Court said the churches can be there. They're going to be there. So whether you like it or not, one way we could fight this is to actually go in there and do it ourselves. Because I don't think, as far as legally, there's not much we can do legally. The Supreme Court has interpreted already. The Constitution is clear. They have a right. So what I want from each one of you, here's my email address. I kind of want to get a feeling from the group here of people who might be interested in dealing with this. I want to know how you feel about this in particular, like what do you find objectionable about it? What is it you would like to fight with? What are some ideas you might have to fight this issue of churches and Good News Club in the schools? And what you might know. One of the problems I have here, and one of the problems actually people who fight this have, is that there is no, they don't keep a public necessarily of where the Good News Club is at, so we don't know where they're at. If they're in Ohio, or if they're in Kentucky, we don't know. We know they're in Indiana, so they're that far.
Which part?
I don't know. Jim, do you remember which part of Indiana? It's somewhere outside of Indianapolis, isn't it? Yeah. So.
They usually tackle an area at a time.
Yeah. There's already a CEF, which again is the organization that runs the Good News Club. There's already a CEF in Ohio. And I just looked on my phone, and I might be able to bring it up, but not on the screen. Apparently, they list a school, and I don't know what this means, but they list a school, Madison School, and I don't know where this Madison School is, but I'll look into that. I just literally found it now. They might actually already be established in Ohio somewhere. And I think this has the potential to be very dangerous or very damaging to kids, to teach this, to allow this to go on unopposed. So
is this a traveling group?
no, this is actually, they stay right where they are. One thing I would recommend just before we close up, because I don't know how much time I have here. You're about out. Okay, so let me get to the last slide here. Some resources here. This book, if you ever want to get fired up, this is the book that fired me up. This is a good book. It's The Good News Club by Katherine Stewart. She does a really good job of reporting on the Good News Club. She infiltrates in a Good News Club to actually learn about what they do and what their meetings are like. Young Skeptics is a good website. They started the Better News Club, or they were started by the Better News Club, which is a response to the Good News Club. And the Good News Club info has some deeper stuff. They have like actual books from the Good News Club, what they teach the children, if you want to learn more about what is actually.
Yes, they understand that my whole life is just a blink of an eye. The history of the earth is with each moment that goes by. But this moment that I'm with you, it feels like time has stood still. It feels somehow like it matters, and that it always will. Thank you so much.